If you've ever eaten at Sweet Potatoes restaurant in Winston-Salem, you just might say, well, shut my mouth, but you won't mean it. Now, the recipes that have made the restaurant a city favorite are revealed in the pages of a new cookbook. The book's author and co-owners of Sweet Potatoes talk about the sweet smell of success and the long road to get there next on Black Issues Forum.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC TV.
Hello and welcome to Black Issues Forum. I'm Deborah Holt-Noel. There are hundreds of cookbooks out there, but only one has the recipes of dishes that have been savored at Sweet Potatoes restaurant, downtown Winston-Salem, like their ever-delicious sweet potato cornbread stuffing. Today we'll meet the book's author and co-owners of the restaurant and find out what it took for two African-American women to carve out a successful business against all odds in the city of the arts. But first, let's take a look at the restaurant at the heart of it all.
10 years ago, there weren't any restaurants, but there was a feeling of camaraderie, of community, and we wanted to be a part of that. So we found this space was vacant, and we talked with the landlord and created Sweet Potatoes here. And it's a part of a neighborhood, it's a part of something as opposed to just a standalone.
In 2003, Vivian Joiner and her partner Stephanie Tyson opened Sweet Potatoes Well Shut My Mouth, a restaurant at 529 North Trade Street in Winston-Salem.
Well, I wrote the menu when I was creating the menu because I like sweet potatoes, so there was a lot of sweet potato things in the menu. So as I look at the menu, it's like, whoa, that's a lot of sweet potatoes. Maybe we should explain that. So let's call it Sweet Potatoes. Vivian hated it.
With her professional background in restaurants, Vivian knew it was important that they be known for full-service dining. So the name became Sweet Potatoes, a restaurant. But even that name had a problem because it was already taken.
So we needed to add something in the title or the name so that we could trademark. And there's a painting that's in the wait station that a local artist did for us when we first opened, the Apple Lady. And I was sitting in the wait station, and we were trying to figure out what we could put in that name so that we could trademark it. And I happened to glance up at the painting and say, wow, well, shut my mouth. And that was it.
Now that name is in the title of a cookbook authored by Tyson and featuring a collection of personal stories and her own recipes that have made Sweet Potatoes such a big hit in Winston-Salem and beyond.
We came all the way from Tampa, heard about this place through a great friend of mine, Tony Thompson, sitting next to me, and the food was absolutely phenomenal. It was delicious. We're coming back tomorrow. No lie.
As for what has made Sweet Potatoes such a draw downtown, it depends on which owner you ask.
Vivian is, she's from DC. She's the front of the house. She really is the face of Sweet Potatoes. She's probably the person that you'll see when you come in. I'm usually in the kitchen. And there's a reason for that. I have foot and mouth disease. She keeps us out of trouble. She pretty much created the feel of Sweet Potatoes. She's really very pointed about how people are treated. Sweet Potatoes is like an extension of our home. So people need to be treated with the utmost respect and offered the grace of our home.
Stephanie will tell you that I'm the one that makes Sweet Potatoes work, run, but it's just the opposite. The thought of Sweet Potatoes, the design, the flavor, it's Stephanie. Stephanie is an artist. She has an artist soul, and it shows through. It shows through in the plate of food that she puts out. It shows through in her writing. She's funny, she's witty, she's passionate, She's intense, and all of that is in that book. And the cookbook it's about 100 recipes of things that she felt most important to her in that moment. It definitely pays homage to her grandmother and the other women in her life, her aunts. She is a very special person.
However you account for it, guests at Sweet Potatoes will feel the love, both in the atmosphere and especially on their stomachs, as they soak in Stephanie's take on Southern cuisine, much inspired by her grandmother.
My grandmother didn't read or write very well, so everything that she did was by taste. So my tendency is to taste things. And so I went away to school and culinary school, and so we traveled around. So the food is a combination of my traveling and the different flavors of the South, all things Southern. So there's some Creole things, there's some low country things. It's Southern.
And this menu includes Stephanie's creations like her warm collard green dip made with blue cheese and bacon, drunken pork chops marinated in apple brandy and served with sweet potato cornbread stuffing, fried catfish New Orleans style she calls catfish Nola with a sweet and spicy Creole sauce, and of course, sweet potato pie. It's a menu of good food with universal appeal and the entire feel of the restaurant, from the jazz music playing in the background to the wall art on loan from local artists, but available for purchase, speak to the souls of all Americans.
We are African American owned restaurant, so we are what we are. The people that come is inclusive. We have, and we're proud of the fact that we have one of the most diverse clienteles on a regular basis. That's from staff to the folks dining with us to folks calling and wanting to come dine with us. The people that come here, the folks that we've met, I wouldn't say I'm proud, I'm privileged by being able to meet them.
We have both owners of the restaurant with us today. I'd like to welcome Stephanie Tyson, the chef and co-owner of Sweet Potatoes, well, Shut My Mouth, a restaurant. And Stephanie is the author of the cookbook by the same name. And we have her partner and restaurant co-owner, Vivian Joiner. Ladies, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Stephanie, I want to start off with you. What was more difficult, starting up Sweet Potatoes or writing the book?
I'm almost not sure about that, because the book was a lot harder than I thought, but so was starting the restaurant. So it's kind of a toss-up between the two of them. Both had their challenges.
Well, I have to say, I visited the restaurant and I've enjoyed everything on the menu. It's just delicious. I can't wait to try some of the recipes in the cookbook. Vivian, now your background has inspired a number of the menu items at Sweet Potatoes as well as the recipes in the book. Talk a little bit about your Southern background in the cuisine.
Well, I grew up in D.C. I'm the youngest of 6, and my mom is from D.C. and New York area, but my dad was from the low country of South Carolina in a little town called Bluffton, just shy of Hilton Head, South Carolina. And we would go travel down for family outings and family reunions and all. And Stephanie, coming from Winston Salem, North Carolina, never really had seafood, especially not fresh seafood. So when we would go down for a family event, I would introduce her to fresh fish, you know, shrimp. We would go crabbing off of the out in the marsh. It was a lot of fun. So she got her first real taste of seafood, and it's been a nice addition to the menu.
A very nice addition.
I grew up eating square fish. Frozen square
The little
fish.
fillets,
Yeah.
that doesn't count. That doesn't
No,
count
it
at all.
doesn't.
But you've got catfish on the menu,
Yeah.
you've got shrimp. It's really wonderful. And in the book, you talk a little bit about your grandmother and the influence she had on you growing up. How strong an influence was she, and why is that?
My grandmother was, well, she cooked for family. She was a domestic, so she cooked. And my mom doesn't cook. She would have been the first one to say, out of the can into the pan. So if we wanted, you know, big food, my grandmother did that. She always had fried chicken. You open her purse, she She probably had a piece of fatback and a biscuit in her purse wrapped up in some wax paper. She had a pot on the stove. So my mom would say, you know what, it's Saturday, I cooked. If you want to eat today, you're on your own. So we go over there and there'd be a pot of butter beans on or neck bones or something. So she was the person that I clung to and learned a lot about, at least about eating. And she let me chop up things sometimes, and she let me taste with her because she did that a lot. Her tastes were a big bowl of whatever. So I was right there beside her, you know. And she was a person, and I got to take care of her when she got older. So it was a circle, you know. I fed her the same way she fed me. So it was really, it was completing the circle. So I miss her a lot. But fortunately, she got a chance to see the restaurant and dine at the restaurant a couple of times. So I was really happy about that.
And speaking of the restaurant, I know that the two of you had quite a few challenges to try to overcome. Vivian, talk a little bit about how difficult it was to get it started up.
Well, it's been almost 10, well, it's been 10 years since we started the process. And we would apply for loans, and we did a little research about how do you get money to open a business, whatever the kind of business. And there was a couple of loan programs in Winston-Salem, and what had to happen to qualify for those loans was that you had to be turned down by a bank. We figured that was pretty easy because history tells you that banks don't loan money for restaurants. So we applied and we got turned down, and we applied with the city, and we were actually turned down twice for our loan. And the last time we were turned down was because, in part, they didn't understand the name of the restaurant. It didn't seem to make sense to them. And they also thought that we had bitten off more than we should chew, that we needed to kind of dumb down what we were doing.
And in what ways?
In that, you know,
you said you had a vision.
We had a vision. We wanted a full-service, comfortable space where you could come and get a great plate of food, a good drink, and great conversation. Kind of an extension of our living room. And when we put that in a business proposal with the dollars and cents of it all, they said, well, it makes sense, but maybe you don't need to start off quite that big. Maybe you can just have a hot dogs and hamburger menu. And maybe you don't need the responsibility or the finance of starting with an alcohol license. So maybe you could grow to a nice beer selection at some point.
Were you insulted?
Quite a bit.
A lot.
Yeah.
It was very insulting, and not, I tend to think it was a little bit more condescending than it probably would have been had we been male. I don't like to think that I don't like to play the race card. I never have. But it struck me as being a little bit much to say or to tell people that when what you want is what we're doing. You want this kind of business downtown. This is you're trying to grow and get different people to come back downtown. So you can't do this by making it so difficult and to exclude a whole bunch of people as owners, and it's as if they weren't willing to dream big.
So how did you get through
We
that?
were pretty determined.
Plowed through.
Yeah, we were really determined, and we were very focused that we were going to do it either all or nothing. We wanted the thing that we wanted, or we just keep working for someone else. And we had some really good supporters. One was Philip Haynes. Philip Haynes was an older gentleman who had just done tremendous things for Winston-Salem and for the arts in the country, actually. And what he did for us was not give us a dime. He never gave us a penny, but he gave us his support, and he put us in the right room with the right table with folks who did have the wherewithal to do that. And for the most part, the few naysayers that were out there, they kind of disappeared very quickly. And we got the support of every corner of the city, every class of the city. And we've been privileged. We've been there for 9 years. And it's been a good run. But it almost stopped us because we were women, and women for so long had been second-class citizens. But we were just like everybody else, and it almost stopped us because we were Black. But at the end of the day, everybody's the same, and diversity is the thing that will make us thrive.
Now, I know, Stephanie, you talked about the race card, so and how you don't like to play the race card, and you also had a gender card. And you probably don't want to play the gender card, but you also have the sexual orientation card as a couple. Was that at all a hindrance in what you were trying to do?
I don't think so. I think that the other obstacles were like way too big to even be an issue at that point. I don't think it's an issue. It hasn't been. Because that's not people's assumption, is that we're not a couple. It's not their assumption. We may be sisters or cousins or whatever. It's not an issue because we do business the way business needs to be done. And race or gender doesn't influence how you do business, or it shouldn't. People come to you or come back to you because the product that you have is quality.
And speaking of quality, something I often hear in conversations with people is the complaint that going to or supporting a Black business is something they don't really want to do because Black-owned businesses are not professional. They're not getting value for their dollar. And the people I'm hearing this from are African Americans. Have you heard this, and if so, what's your take on it, Stephanie?
It's if you expect something from yourself, if you are a professional, the people that work for you will behave in a professional manner. They will. You really have to lead by example. We have professional backgrounds. Vivian is very corporate. I have a culinary background. We are customer service oriented. And we expect that from our staff. And we expect them to be professional. If you don't expect that, you're not going to get it. So that thing with, Black, oh, you're Black, oh, it's got to be like a diner or it's got to be a cafeteria, and you have that mentality. We're a full service restaurant, and our customer service is, I would compare it to anyone or any place, Black or white, in the city. And when you put that out there, that people are like, it's Black. Are you Black owned? Oh, I actually had that once, and the gentleman chose not to eat there because of that, and he was a white gentleman. For the most part, we have been supported by the African American community. It's almost as if it's a co-ownership.
You're proud of that you're there and that you're doing so well and representing in such a positive way.
Yes.
And what you bring, Vivian, to the business is that background in franchise restaurants?
Yeah, I did a lot of franchise work, worked for several different fast food restaurants as well as a couple of casual thing restaurants. I've worked for small, low volume. I've worked in the busiest restaurant in the world. At the time, the Planet Hollywood in Orlando was the busiest restaurant in the world. And I was part of the management team there. And you just learn, you need to take care of everyone that comes through your door. And you need to take care of them regardless of anything, you know. I'm from DC, and one of the restaurants I worked in was right near the bus station. And bus station anywhere USA, for the most part, you're going to have a very colorful group of people that sometimes inhabit, and this was the case. And you still treat them, you don't know what they have in their pockets, so you still treat them with respect. You still treat everyone the same. And that's what you get back in most cases.
Mm-hmm. Stephanie, let's talk a little bit about the book, the cookbook. What recipes are in there? Are those actually the recipes that people get to enjoy at the restaurant?
Yes. When people ask me for recipes, I've no problems with giving them a recipe. And so we took the most popular dishes that people always ask for recipes for, except for that cheesecake. Now, that cheesecake is not in that book. So, you know, don't just not there. Don't even
get excited.
But
you got to come to the restaurant and get the sweet potato cheesecake.
So the recipes that are there are recipes that we've either have on the menu now or have had in the past. The way I think I've had to size them down a little bit, but they're there. The ones that people ask for a lot.
Great. Now, tell me, how did you two get into business together? How did you meet? Vivian?
We met in DC, and we've always been folks who love the arts in one way or another. I was working in a bookstore, and there was a poetry reading, and the author had come in, and Stephanie came in for that poetry reading, and we met, got to talking, and we've been together ever since.
And how long ago was that?
It was like almost 26 years.
So yeah. A very long time friends and relationships.
Yeah, and we've both done different things. My working background started in retail, bookstore and all, and then a natural progression is to go into restaurant from retail. I got bored with retail. It just wasn't enough to do. Trust me, I'm not bored now.
Yeah, it's a thriving restaurant.
Yeah.
And Stephanie, in addition to getting that training from your grandmother, you've had some professional culinary training as well.
I did go to Baltimore International College. And so I actually initially started out front of the house. I was a server, I was a bartender, a bar manager, and I just ended up getting to the back of the house more and develop an interest in cooking. Having been a restaurant manager and being totally intimidated by the kitchen. Didn't particularly care for that. So I thought maybe I'll just go to school and find out a little bit more about the workings of the kitchen, and found that that's what I needed to do. I just, everything that my grandmother did, or it all just became crystal clear during culinary school. And I found that I had a natural ability to do this.
Well, now
that I didn't know that.
Now that you've written your book and you've got the restaurant, is there anything that's like, you know, your next goal?
Yes. I would love just to go to France and cook. I don't know why. To south of France.
That's just
my, you know, that would just be. And part of culinary training was we actually I did an externship in Ireland. That wasn't my favorite, but I would like to like just sort of do that whole south of France thing. And I have to get over my fear of flying to do that.
Is Julia Childs one of your inspirations, or who?
Absolutely. I watched that show. It was always on PBS. I watch that show all the time.
There's the plug. I kind of fed it to you, didn't I?
But I love her, and so the whole process, I mean, of flavors, I love, and hopefully every day we learn something. Every day I learn something, and for me it's all about flavor. and making that work in the simplest manner.
And we have just a few seconds left. Vivian, tell us what the hours of the restaurant are and where you're located.
We're open 7 days a week. Sunday brunch, 10:30 to 3. Lunch is Monday through Saturday, 11 to 3. Dinner is Tuesday through Saturday, starting at 5 o'clock.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I encourage people to go and visit. And I'd like to thank Stephanie Tyson and Vivian Joiner for coming out and sharing their story with us today. For more information on today's show, visit us online at unctv.org/BIF. You'll find links to email us your comments and join us as fans of BIF on Facebook. Or you can call us on the BIF line at 919-549-7167. Be sure to meet us right back here each Sunday afternoon at 4:30 for Black Issues Forum. I'm Deborah Holt Noel. Thank you for spending your time with us.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC TV.